Yeah, David, I guess you guys have been on the ice now several days, and I'm curious if you've gotten a better read on your goaltending situation, and if there's a favorite, if you could name him, that would be ideal as well.
Yeah, sometimes I like one better than the other. I mean, it's kind of a competition that you would imagine would have unfolded, and that's kind of what's happening in front of our eyes. I think all these guys look good, they look sharp, and, it will play out. I do believe that eventually someone's going to play well enough where they raise their hand, and it's going to be, I don't know if obvious is the right word, but I think it will be a situation where, obviously we know who the number one guy is.
I guess you were working a little bit on your defensive coverage today. Can you just give us a quick sort of rundown on how your defensemen have been looking in these last 5 days or whatever you've been practicing?
Yeah, these last 2 days have been tough for the defensemen in particular. So, one of the things we constantly have been trying to harp on is our gaps. I mean, it's something that we have to constantly remind our defensemen of, and it's going to be very important against a team like Carolina, taking away time and space. That gap you create, leaving that offensive blue line is going to be pivotal in slowing them down. And, not only off the rush, but we have to have good gaps in zone as well. So that's just something we're going to continue to work on. There's a lot of things you can work on that inevitably, turn back to your D-zone coverage. And, our guys certainly are aware how important it is, and they understand that that was one of the reasons why we were able to have the second half we had, and one of the reasons why we're continuing to have the opportunity to play.
Hey, David, we just talked to Tony, and we talked about his breakout year, and obviously the numbers bear out that he was very productive offensively. I'm curious how you assess it and how you would also assess his defensive coverage. He mentioned that as an area where he still feels that he needs to improve, and I'm curious what you've seen from him and what are the areas you'd like to see him improve.
I think Tony is, and he's talked about this, I think Tony for the first time is in a situation two years in a row where he's got the same coaches, the same environment. It's a similar situation that he had last year. And, again, I mean, Tony's a guy that's got world-class skill. He continues to hone his skills defensively. The thing I love is that he touches on the fact that he knows he has to continue to improve defensively. And as most highly skilled defensemen do, the defensive side of it usually comes a little bit later in their career. And, Tony certainly has improved a lot defensively. He's done a lot of good things defensively. And the thing I love about him is that he wants to continue to improve in that area.
Dave, I get that you liked your group at the end of the season, or at the start of the pause, or however you want to describe it. But you mentioned on day one that you got good reports from Libor, on Libor from Hartford, and I'm just wondering, is there wouldn't there be a benefit to have him up in the mix to get into your top six? Because you seem to have a set top six, and I don't know if he's your seventh yet or what the status of him is. And I was wondering whether he'll get a chance to maybe play his way into the top six.
He absolutely will. That being said, we like the guys that we've had, so it's going to take like I said, I don't want to forget what happened over the course of the season. That means an awful lot. We want to give guys a chance to kind of play their way back into where we left off on March 11th. And, our 6D we like. We think that we're in a good position there. That being said, I like what I've seen out of Libor here in the last week. One of the things I think we're going to do after the scrimmage tomorrow and the day off is kind of reset and reevaluate how to handle the next week from a practice standpoint. Maybe we bring another defenseman into practice. Maybe we bring another forward in. So we just wanted to get through this first 7 or 8 days with this look where we have the team that we finished with the extra skating after, maybe some mixing in when we need 2 extra D, or obviously tomorrow we'll have everybody skating because we're going to have a full scrimmage again. So there's a lot that's gone into this, but I feel good about where we're at right now. That being said, after the scrimmage tomorrow, I think we'll kind of reevaluate what the next week will look like, and should we bring another D and another forward into our practices.
Hey, Coach, how does Carolina's defense change now with Dougie Hamilton back and Shea in their lineup?
Well, 2 guys that are very mobile, 2 guys that are very active. Obviously, you're talking about Dougie Hamilton, who, when he got hurt, was in the mix for a Norris Trophy discussion. Brady had a good year for us. So, obviously, those are 2 guys that, the way they like to play, I think they complement the way they like to play. Guys that move pucks, guys that can jump in the play. So, as I mentioned yesterday, their decor is going to look a lot different than it did when we last played them.
Yeah, David, I'm curious, as you reevaluate for next week, is part of the thought process to try to mimic a game day routine as well? And I think your first 2 games are at noon, so you could just bump practice up an hour and be able to do that. Is that part of your thinking, to mimic that, to get that routine in?
Yeah, first 2 games are at noon, so that's certainly something that, again, we're going to talk about, and emulating what we're going to experience to a game. It is too bad we can't have referees. I think it just gives the whole scrimmage a little bit of an extra feel of a game-like mentality. So, I think we'll do the scrimmage tomorrow the same way we did the first one, and then, like I said, we'll talk about other ways to do it and other ways to kind of, as we get closer, to emulate what we're going to see when we get to Toronto in our first 2 games in the series.
I'm curious about Jacob Trouba. This was a guy that, when you got him, he was kind of, expectations were very high for him. He had done so well in Winnipeg the season before. How would you evaluate his play overall in the 70 games that you played before the break? And how does he look now? Like, does he look better, more comfortable? Like, you talked about Kakko looking more comfortable after coming back from the break. I mean, have you noticed anything from Trouba as far as that goes?
Yeah, I think Troubas, as the year unfolded, I think he got more comfortable. I think I think he put a lot of pressure on himself. This is a guy that wants to, do very well. I think he wants his teammates to understand how important they are to him, and how he wants to play well, not only for himself, for the organization. And I thought his year got better and better and better. And, I really believe his best hockey's ahead of him. And I like what I've seen out of him so far in camp. Again, a lot of people were challenged in order to stay in great shape and to stay sharp during this difficult time. And he did a really good job without having a lot of access to things to stay in good shape. So, one of the reasons we continue to play is because of him. And he's going to be a pivotal piece of the puzzle here against Carolina.